Thank you for joining us for another episode of Real Talk. We want to thank our sponsors at Park Bank. Thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you for Facebook Journalism Project. Thank you for supporting us, especially at this time. If you want more of our content, please go to our YouTube page or go to our podcast to get more of this Real Talk conversations. Today, I have a friend, someone who is I'm extremely proud of, who's talented, has a big job right now. I don't envy him at all for having the big job that he has. Milwaukee County Exec, Mr. David Crowley. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Henry. Always a pleasure to be back on the podcast with you. Definitely love doing this Real Talk sessions. Gives me an opportunity to just be open and honest, be who I am, and talk to the people. So thank you for inviting me again.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on, man. And do I dare ask you about TikTok?
So I still haven't got on it. I'm still not on TikTok. I'm doing more trolling on TikTok, watching everybody else's instead of providing my own content.
You're taking your time, learning the process, seeing the moves at work and all that stuff. All that stuff they do.
I'm trying, man. Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah. So Friday is Juneteenth. Which is a big day for Black folks. And for you people who don't know what Juneteenth is, I'm not even going to explain it to you. Google it. Educate yourself on why Juneteenth is important. But you actually made a big decision on Juneteenth. Why don't you tell us about what you did?
Yeah, so we made Juneteenth this year a minor holiday, working in conjunction with the county board to give people that opportunity to make that choice if they wanted to take off of Juneteenth. I mean, personally, it's a day of being on. So, just like Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I think we need to make sure that we utilize Juneteenth as an opportunity to bring more folks together, teach the history of Black people, Black enslaved people here in America, and help people also understand just the struggle in general when you think about the civil rights movement and the whole timeline that we have been here in America. And so we wanted to provide this opportunity. And the goal is, at the end of the day, is to turn this into a major holiday here in Milwaukee County as we continue to move forward. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. Milwaukee has one of the largest Juneteenth celebrations in the country. And this year would have been the 49th year. Unfortunately, we won't be able to have it, but nothing's going to stop our sunshine. And so I'm looking forward to going out in the community, working with folks, volunteering, but also being a part of some of the community activities and marches that are happening on Friday. So it's a big moment. And we also are flying the Juneteenth flag, the Pan-African flag, as well as the Pride flag, this Pride Month as well, outside of Milwaukee County Courthouse to show our solidarity.
I don't think, is anyone else doing that in the state? What you doing right now? I mean, that's
I don't think so. I do know that the governor has flown the Juneteenth flag for the very first time, but we got all three flags out there. And so I think we may be the first county. We weren't, not a lot of people are like, well, we didn't hear about it. See, sometimes you just got to do what you have to do and then let people see what's happening behind the scenes. I'm not the type of person to necessarily, gloat about what I'm doing for this community, because at the end of the day, it's about the community. It's not about what credit I'm getting, but we wanted to make sure that we recognize Juneteenth Day at the African-American struggle, Black struggle, but also recognize Pride Month.
Did the county board have to vote on it?
No, not to do that. But today, as far as the minor holiday, we had to take an executive action on that. But we will continue to make, work with the board. County board just took action today in finance committee to pass a resolution in support of it. And we're going to continue to do the same thing in the future to make sure, again, that we can recognize it as a major holiday. And then hopefully, this is just a step, right? When we think about, we're in the middle of two pandemics. You got COVID-19 and you also have racism. And, COVID-19 was up 28-3 and literally lost to racism. And right now, we know that we're going to see a vaccine come out for one of the pandemics before the other. And so we have to take steps right now to come up with societal solutions to racism. And this is just one step towards that.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned COVID-19, and, Milwaukee was hit harder than anyone else in the state, really, with the COVID-19. What's going on now with COVID-19 in the area? What are you hearing?
For sure. Well, we've as everybody knows, we have definitely seen a disproportionate impact in communities of color. Here in Milwaukee County, we've seen a huge uptick in the Black community, and now we're seeing an uptick in the Latinx community, but also in our surrounding suburbs. And so we've received federal dollars from both the state and the feds to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to uplift the community, mitigate this virus. And so I'm really proud to announce that, recently we're putting $10 million towards housing stability. We know that many people have had a hard time making rent, paying their mortgage. So we want to provide them some relief. So we work with the Milwaukee County Board to do exactly that, to provide rent assistance for some housing acquisition, as well as mortgage assistance to make sure that, we're giving the people the help that they need. And we're currently, working through the process now to see what other programs that we need to provide right now. So whether that's for small businesses, whether that's, for mental health. Right now, we got to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to get this community back on a road of normalcy in a sense. But it is a long road ahead of us. We got to remember that we still have this virus around us. So continue to practice physical distancing, continue to socialize with those around you, because we know how being confined can really take a toll on individuals. But, even telling people to wear masks and making that normal, right? Especially if you're a Black or brown person. We know what biases can come out of some people. And so we have to have that conversation. But I guess the other thing I would say is that we also instituted a universal mask policy here in Milwaukee County. We want to protect our workers. We want to protect our clients as well. And so we are asking everybody, if you're walking into a Milwaukee County facility, that you have to wear a mask. But we also understand that not many people have access to that. And so if you don't have a mask, we will provide them. And we want to take a leadership role, not only just within our county facilities, but we're saying this, we're not requiring them at our airport and requiring them on our bus systems, but highly encouraged. And so you're even going to see mask dispensers on our buses, because we want everybody to protect themselves as we think about what this pandemic is, what it looks like in the future.
Well, it's like you're being proactive. I think that's wonderful. I never thought about it, but you're right. You're riding the bus and people don't have it. How are they going to get masks? People are working, trying to, where are they going to get it? Where do they have time to even go get masks if you're just trying to work and go back home or whatever? So
and that's the key, right? And I think that, when you think about like when we first started pushing this out, we talked about like safer at home. Well, safer at home isn't safe for everybody, right? And so we have to think differently, particularly when we are reaching different communities of color, marginalized communities that we aren't necessarily messaging to. And so we've also just launched the ReCare Crew, which is a partnership with Milwaukee County, City of Milwaukee, and some community partners, one, to help mitigate, and eliminate the spread of the virus in communities of color, but also to tackle racial equity as well. And so we're going to be providing resource bags, providing a mask, providing just things for folks so they can understand what this looks like in the future. So, you can't go to the park and play basketball and play football and play some of the normal activities. And so we want to provide that space for our young people and provide alternative recreational activities. And that's going to be key when you think about bringing this community together, making sure our young people have access to physical activity, but also to learning as well.
Yeah. Earlier, you mentioned Martin Luther King in Jr. I'm just curious, as being the first Black county exec of Milwaukee, or anywhere actually in the state, who are some of the people that you look up to? Like, who are the people that in your career that that you really looked up to and said, yeah, that person is someone I like for whatever reason?
I want to make sure that I definitely give, the flowers to those who are no longer with us. So I think about, the Polly Williams. I think about the Tamara Grisbys who really, put knowledge, really instilled knowledge into me. The first time I met Tamara, I was 18 years old, and she actually had me come to the Wisconsin State Capitol to talk about how we should raise the adult age from 17 to 18. And it's folks like that. And when I think about even here locally, Reggie Moore, Charlene Moore, when they started Urban Underground. But then when you think nationally, I've been able to develop solid relationships and have some really good conversations with folks like Senator Cory Booker. When I think about folks like the Attorney General, Eric Holder, I've had the opportunities to sit down with him. And even though, and it's some of the folks who I look up to didn't necessarily take me under their wing personally, but I had the opportunity to kind of step back and watch from afar. I think it's extremely important that you not only learn by your own experience, but you learn by others as well. And so you have to take time to learn. You have to take time to do that research. And there are a lot of folks. I mean, you talk about, Detroit Red, Malcolm X, I've always been a huge fan of Malcolm X, especially when I think about where he's come from and what he did and where he was going. And unfortunately, when you think about him and Dr. Martin Luther King, lost their lives at a very young age. And so it is up to folks like myself, not only to learn, but also to instill that same knowledge, that same value into those who are coming up after me, so they understand the foundation that we absolutely stand on.
Yeah, thank you. That's powerful, and especially how you're talking about Miss Grisby, Tamara. That's my girl, man. I miss her. God bless her, man. She was a firecracker for real.
Oh man, she was a heavy hitter, and and there are people like that you don't know what you have until they're gone. And I think it's extremely important that we give our flowers to the folks who are currently here. I mean, the work that you've been doing in Madison, and there are a plethora of Black people in general that many of us don't even know what's been happening behind the scenes and who's been doing this work for so many decades. And we just got to tip our hats off to them.
That's actually a good point, because we had this town hall yesterday with high school students, this youth, with some college students too. And I told them, man, like I was saying to them, like, look, you guys are active, you're doing all this stuff, protesting now, but there's been a lot of people that have doing a lot of work that you're just not aware of, but who are actually doing real work. You don't know because you're doing what you're doing, but there's a lot of people actually who are doing good work.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that you said that. So before we let go, tell us what you're reading right now. So if someone's listening, do you have time to read?
So not during this COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, again, we get to two pandemics, but as you can see, I got a bunch of books behind me, and a lot of those books are behind me intentionally. Whether you're talking about the new Jim Crow, whether we are talking about leadership skills, whether we are talking about things that directly impact the African-American community, redlining, all of that. I think right now I would say that, the book that I've been kind of reading right now, just going back and forth to kind of pay homage and kind of bring back that old spirit, is the book behind me on this side. The last book right here where my thumb is James Baldwin. Okay. And it is just a bunch of his writings together, all of his essays. And I think people forget about James Baldwin a lot and how powerful he was, many of our Black authors. And so I make it a point to kind of read his writings because I want to make sure that I still have that fire in my belly and still understand where I come from and where we are going. And to be honest, what sparked me going back to read that was the protests, because when I look at, the civil unrest that has been happening and people letting their voice be heard, it reminds me of who we are as America, but it also shows me where we're going. And it's critically important that we know where we're coming from, where we are now, so we can make sure that wherever we go, it is intentional and it's strategic, so we can make sure that nobody's left behind.
Yeah. Well, thank you for those words. And I was asking this because I've always wanted our viewers, especially those young folks who want to figure out, how do I become a county exec? They know the little things that you're doing, the stuff that you're reading, right? The people you look up to. I think it's extremely important for us to give back to our youth, let them know the blueprint, or some of the blueprint, how to succeed.
Absolutely.
So thank you, sir, Mr. County Exec. Make sure that you stay safe and healthy. Blessings to your family, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Always a pleasure, man. Anytime.
All right. And thank you for joining for another episode of Real Talk. We'll see you next time.